Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey guys, all right. Another History Matters video. This is just a new one that I saw came up, and I'm gonna react to it. How did Creoles react to the Louisiana Purchase? Let's find out. Is that referring to just people who lived in what is now like the New Orleans area? Well, I'm gonna find out. All right. Like, subscribe, Discord, all that stuff. Join the Discord. Let's just get right into it. All right. Original link at the top description below. Discord link right below that. Let's go.
The country. It's not often that your home nation sells where you live to another country, and by extension, you with it. But this is what happened to the Creoles living in French Louisiana when it was sold to the United States in 1803. Suddenly going from being a French subject to living in America must have been pretty odd, which raises the question, how exactly did the Creoles react to the Louisiana Purchase? Before we begin, it's necessary to discuss the word Creole. Nowadays, it has a racial connotation to it, but it's important to note that this wasn't the case until the mid-1880s. And as of the Louisiana Purchase, Creole just meant francophone person born in the New World, and so that's what we'll use here. So when Jefferson...
Obviously, I mean, I think I'm wrong, but I thought Creole was like a mix between French and something else that they speak on like Haiti, and but I'm not sure about
purchased
that.
francophone person born in the New World, and so that's what we'll use here. So when Jefferson purchased Louisiana from Napoleon, it was, to put it mildly, sparsely populated. The non-Native American population there was about 60,000 people. Over half of these people were slaves, and of the rest, the major groups were French, Spanish, German, and Irish settlers. Now, whilst Louisiana was sold by France, it had only belonged to France for about 2 years at this point, and totally in secret. They had gotten it from Spain, who in turn had won it from France in the 7 Years' War 40 years prior. And Napoleon had been negotiating the sale before he'd even sent a governor there to, run the place. As such, you can see that the people there weren't exactly attached to the idea of French sovereignty, since the only difference was that for about a year there had been French troops...
So are you saying he was intending to flip it the whole time?
7 Years' War 40 years prior.
For a profit?
And Napoleon had been negotiating the sale before he'd even sent a governor there to, run the place. As such, you can see that the people there weren't exactly attached to the idea of French sovereignty, since the only difference was that for about a year there had been French troops...
Let me know if I understood that wrong, but did he just try and like flip that for a profit, or...
in the region instead of French sovereignty, since the only difference was that for about a year there had been French troops in the region instead of Spanish ones, and then all of a sudden those left and it was American troops in their place. And even when it was under Spanish control, it was done with a light touch.
Look how big the territory Spain had.
Troops in their place. And even...
They had... Alright, so they had everything... This is the Mississippi. They had everything west of that. It's all of California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, just Mexico down. Did they have all the way down to the bottom of, like, Patagonia at this point? Because...
Even when it was under Spanish control, it was done with a light touch. And so any changes...
That made me think of something. Everyone talks about, like, the British Empire, the Russian Empire, the Mongols, about being the largest, I think Britain, ever, territory. Like, had the largest amount of territory within their empire. Where does Spain rank? Because at one point, they had, maybe they didn't have it all at one point, like all of South America except Brazil, which is by far the largest country, but still there's a lot left. And then all the way up to there, that's a lot.
In leadership had little effect on those was under Spanish control, it was done with a light touch. And so any changes in leadership had little effect on those living there, especially those in rural areas. So how did the people feel about all of this? Well, the response was mixed. You see, the United States didn't make this land a state, but a territory. This meant those who lived there got the negatives of government, like taxes, but with none of the positives, like democracy or citizenship. Instead, they got the potential future maybe promise of...
We were hypocrites?
None of the positives, like democracy or citizenship. Instead, they got the potential future maybe promise of one day prospectively becoming citizens. Perhaps. For most of New Orleans and St. Louis's populations, they were furious. And many took to the streets to protest their sale, and more importantly, their actions, they were furious. And many took to the streets to protest their sale, and more importantly, their they were furious. And many...
You can't sell us? Really? Really? Oh, God.
They took to the streets to protest their sale and, more importantly, their being forced to become Americans. Now, with these changes
Baguettes
also
are now
came opportunities,
breadsticks.
particularly with respect to the Mississippi River and trade. The US government wanted the river to become central to continental travel and commerce, and so its leaders pledged to make it more navigable and also rid it of its piracy problem. And so locals in New Orleans knew that their city would likely become a major trade hub, which it did. However,
Question. How did they sail upstream before? How did you go up, and not just Mississippi, just any river? How did they go upstream without a motor, like or steam engine or something like that? I mean, you're really going to rely on sails when you're not even in the open ocean and you're in a narrow river? You could row, obviously, that would be tough.
locals in New Orleans knew that their city would likely become a major trade hub, which it did. However, this opportunity brought many American settlers to the city, and they had no interest whatsoever in mixing with the Creoles already there. As for the rural settlers of Louisiana, they weren't so keen. For them, their accession to the United States could only mean one thing: new all-American neighbours, which meant more competition and, importantly, worse relations with Native Americans, whom under Spanish and French rule had largely been left alone. And if they were provoked by these new owners, it could lead to retaliation, which wouldn't be directed at
Manifest destiny
in Washington, but if relations with Native Americans, whom under Spanish and French rule had largely been left alone. And if they were provoked by these new owners, it could lead to retaliation, which wouldn't be directed at those in Washington, but those living on the frontier. Irrespective of what they thought, the deal was already done, and the Louisiana Territory would forever be incorporated into the United States. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with a special
thank you for making. Thank you to his Patreons. Amazing video, once again, doing exactly what History Matters does so well, like condensing stuff. What I love most about him is that in just a few minutes, literally 3 minutes, they can take larger subjects and compress them in a nice way to make you want to learn more about it, give you a general understanding, and then maybe, get a deeper look on a different channel or read about it or whatnot. Great as always. Be back with another reaction soon. See you guys later.